What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined by my dad, Sean, and today, reactions to the classics. It's time for us to continue our series ranking each song on the Beatles albums, going chronologically. We've wrapped up Please Please Me.
We have.
And now we're up to With the Beatles here. Gonna be ranking songs on this record from worst to best. As always, just according to our opinion.
Of course.
This ain't a fact, people, but it sparks a great discussion. And of course, want to see your list down in the comments section below. Before we get to that, Dad, just a little primer on this record and some quick facts, and then we'll get into our list.
Yeah, it was released in the UK November 22nd, 1963, not in the US until February of 1987, although I'll get into that, how these tracks were covered there. The second of 12 UK albums, 14 songs. None of them were released as singles. In the past album, we had the McCartney-Lennon in Please Please Me. This became the norm, the Lennon-McCartney.
The early switch.
The early switch. 8 of the tracks are originally written by the Beatles. 7 of them, the Lennon-McCartney. 1 of them, George Harrison. We'll get to that one in a little bit. And Trey, we talked about in the Please Please Me rankings how that album was released or recorded 10 of the 14 songs in one day. This is quite a different story, right? This is over 7 sessions over 3 months. This album's put together. Why? Because Beatlemania is running wild, and they don't have any time. So they're doing TV performances, they're doing radio performances, they're doing live performances, and then they're running back in the studio with George Martin and trying to lay down a track here and there, and then they're going back out. And I think as we'll get into the quality of the album, that obviously has an effect on the album.
Oh, 100%.
Because debut albums are really easy, right? Because you've been playing your content and doing it for so long. Now all of a sudden, hey, we need an album like yesterday.
Yeah, we got to come up with some stuff now.
My goodness, I got to put it out. And we all know how prolific the Beatles were, in a 7-year period. But this is kind of where that really started. In North America, the way things were done, remember, we have a whole different setup with Capitol Records, and they really screwed up the Beatles albums, in mine and your opinion, up until about halfway through the catalog. But the way they did these is that the first Beatles album released in North America, in Canada in November of '63, under the augmented title Beatlemania with the Beatles. It was unevenly split over the group's first 2 Capitol albums in the U.S. 9 tracks were issued on Meet the Beatles. The 8 original compositions on here, plus Till There Was You, and the remaining 5, all covers, were placed on the Beatles' second album. This had 500,000 advance copies and sold another 500,000, supplanting Please Please Me in the UK for the #1 album. And it's only the second album to ever sell 1 million copies in the UK after the 1958 film South Pacific Soundtrack. His soundtracks kind of ruled there for about 7 or 8 years. And the cover photo, of course, iconic, taken by fashion photographer Robert Freeman. It's been mimicked by several music groups over the years.
With the quick facts in the bag, man, let's get to this countdown. Just like Please Please Me, 14 tracks. So we'll start this off, man. My number 14 is going to be a Mr. George Harrison track. I got Devil in Her Heart. This one I don't hate as much as my last place spot on Please Please Me, A Taste of Honey.
No, me neither.
But it is definitely the weaker of the 3 Harrison tracks on here. And there's just nothing here that makes me want to go back and listen to it, man.
It was originally written by a guy named Ricky D. And so, yeah, it's a cover. And it just doesn't work for me. And I told you before we started recording this, we didn't share what order we had stuff in. But, this album, I think, now I'll probably have to retract this as we go through these albums, but this is one of the hardest ones for me to rank because there's a lot of stuff for me that just, going back 2 years after we reviewed this album doesn't really work real well for me. So it's kind of a battle.
A lot of tunes, that are in that same type of spot.
Yeah, so I've got Devil in Her Heart at 14 as well. Then we're going to go to our first McCartney offering, which, we took some heat on A Taste of Honey. I'm sure we'll go on this one too. But Till There Was You, originally written for Meredith Willson and the musical play The Music Man, only Broadway tune that they ever recorded, thankfully. Songs about love, Trey, how it can change your perception of the world. And guys, I like Paul, right? Because I know I'm going to get some Paul. I really, really like Paul, but it's one of those Paul tunes that he gets in that little, I don't even want to use a word for it. Just not my thing, man. Not my thing.
Yeah, I got it just a little higher than you. I will say instrumentally, I enjoy that track much more than Paul's vocal performance.
I agree.
The nylon string guitar especially kind of stands out. But my number 13 is going to be led by the great Ringo Starr, baby. The cover of a Rolling Stones hit, which also I'm not a big fan of their version either. So I just don't know if this song can be done well I Want to Be Your Lover, Baby. I Want to Be Your Man, coming in for me at number 13. It does have a bit of a spunkiness and fun energy to it. Lyrically and vocally just seems to kind of miss the mark. So that's my number 13.
Well, I'll make it easy because...
And my number 12 is Till There Was You. So we
flipped them. So my number 12 is I Want to Be Your Man. And, you know, the story behind it's funny because the story is that Nick and Keith from the Rolling Stones are sitting in the corner of the studio, and John and Paul are over there in the corner, and they're just finishing this song off. And John said later on, you know, in one of his famous 1980 interviews right before he passed, that, you know, he said it was a throwaway song. You kind of know what we think of it because there's only two versions of it. One of them we gave to the Rolling Stones. Then he laughed, and the other one we gave to Ringo. So Ringo's doing the best he can on this. Now we get to my number 11, another McCartney tune, Hold Me Tight.
Dude, that's mine as well. There we go.
Trey, was originally recorded for Please Please Me, but it wasn't included on it. So
it would have fit, you know,
it absolutely would have fit, yeah. And so I guess, how many other songs did they record? Well, I was saying they did 10 of the 14 songs on the album that day. I guess they did more in that 13-hour span, but wasn't included on it. So they did go back and re-record it at different times. Separately, John and Paul both just said it was album filler. I think the harmonies are nice as they are on most of the early stuff. The drumming, shout out to Ringo on the drumming on here. The vocals, not so much.
Yeah. Well, and this is where we get to the next, you know, probably 4 or 5 tunes that they're real close to each other, I think.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, man, this one, just not a bad tune per se, again, not one that really lends well, or for me at least, to go back and want to listen to, as my number 10 is, as well as we get Little Child, Won't You Dance With Me. You know, this is always, you know, it's had a little bit of charm. We bring that harmonica in a little bit on this tune. So
that's the highlight.
Yeah.
That's what I put for this song.
So that makes it, I guess, whenever you really are getting down analyzing, that's why I put it above Hold Me Tight. But again, there's obviously so many better tracks on in this time period. So,
well, it's not my number 10, but I'll finish off thoughts on Little Child. It's only a minute 46.
Yeah.
And John said later on it was originally written for Ringo.
And I could kind of see that because lyrically it's very weak.
They decided to give him I Want to Be Your Man. So my number 10, Mr. Harrison, Roll Over Beethoven. He's doing the best he can on this song. This song is way too big for him right now at this point.
Well, you know, tackling the great Chuck Berry, especially at this time.
The Chuck version is just absolutely fantastic and is Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time. My only comment on that song is I really would like to see what John and his power.
Dude, you're right. That would have been
could have
tight.
done with this song. And my 9's Little Child, so we're there. So what's your number 9?
Well, my number 9 is going to be a cover as well, and you know, it's an interesting point about these covers because even though I like some of them on this, most of the time the originals are better.
They just are, yeah.
So, but I'm going with the closer, Money. That's What I Want, and you know, it has that nice energy kind of as a closing tune. It
does.
Doesn't reach the level of like a Twist and Shout, of course, from Please Please Me, which closed that record out. I will say though, Lennon delivers a pretty solid vocal performance, and you know, just has that charisma kind of exuded.
Yeah, that's what I put. It's not there for me at number. What are you at? Number 9?
I'm at number 9. Yeah,
these 14 tracks. So. It's number 8 for me. So
oh well, and then I got number 8, Roll Over Beethoven. So we're kind of in that same ballpark as well.
So on Money, all I would say on that is, I think John's energy is great. Like at this point in time, John can pull off just about anything. And you know, this song was co-written by Berry Gordy, the great Motown founder, and you know, it's number 288 on the Rolling Stones top 500 greatest songs of all time. The original is, so they did choose great songs to use as covers, but yeah, it's just kind of there for me. My number 7, You've Really Got a Hold on Me. It's credited to Lennon with Harrison. Another cover written by the great Smokey Robinson. Top 10 hit for the Miracles. It's in the Grammy Hall of Fame. Nice harmonies, middle of the road for me. I like the keys. And as usual, John elevates this song beyond its limitations. I mean, I think he raises the ceiling on some of these songs where other artists just couldn't have done it, other vocalists at this time.
Yeah, I got it a little higher than you, but we'll touch on it now. Yeah. I think that again, this is a case where, man, that Smokey Robinson and the Miracles version is just so smooth, so classic and iconic. But still, the Beatles, did a good job with it. I like the hold me, squeeze, hold me, squeeze.
It's
kind of almost that call and response technique that obviously was used so much in just music in general, not just the Beatles during this time. So I think those harmonies just really are classy and just lend well to just being a smooth track. So I got that a little higher. My number 7 is Not a Second Time, going with a Lennon tune here, the penultimate track on this one. Lennon delivers yet again a solid vocal performance, but there's not enough there melodically or instrumentally for me to put it any higher.
I like the piano a little bit on here, and George Martin jumped in on the piano on this song. And what John said about this song, ironically enough, because we're talking about Smokey Robinson, is that he was trying to write a Smokey Robinson type track. So once again, same thing for me. I think Lennon's vocals elevate it. So what do you have at number 6?
I got Don't Bother Me up in here. And, this is one that I've grown to enjoy more as time has gone on. There's almost like a laziness, and that's not a negative, in George's vocal delivery. He really kind of gets across the lyricism in the song where, it's like you feel like, okay, I really don't want to bother this guy as he's singing right now. And those movements, kind of in the melody, kind of crescendo up quite well. And I've grown to think that this is a pretty underrated gem in the Beatles catalog.
I agree, and I looked back on the first review, my notes from the first review. I kind of barbecued this song, but it's definitely grown on me. I don't have this song at 6, but I'll go ahead and cover it here because I'm right there with you. Harrison's first written song that appears on a Beatles album. And the story behind that is he was sick in a hotel room, and he said, I wanted to see if I could do it. I mean, we've said this before in our other Beatles reviews, but if you haven't watched us, you're new to us. What was it like to try to write when you're going up against Lennon and McCartney, who get to write together and are both so prolific, and then here I am trying to just do this on my own. He didn't think real highly of it. He didn't even mention this song in his autobiography, but I'm with you. It has really grown on me. My number 6 was Not a Second Time. We've already covered it. My number 5 is Don't Bother Me. So we're right there. I thought there's a great little guitar solo on Don't Bother Me.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought Ringo's drumming once again stood out.
And my number 5, we already talked about. You Really Got a Hold on Me.
Okay.
So now my number 4 here.
I'm curious how this is going to play
out. Yeah. And this might give me some heat here. This might be a hot take. I think this will be number 1 on most people's list. But I'm going All My Loving here at number 4. So get your comments and pitchforks out, man. Now obviously this is a great early McCartney tune, catchy, and just has that early Beatles youthful exuberance and love going for it. Paul delivers a great vocal performance. I just like the other 3 songs just a little bit more, but it's obviously a classic.
Well, I'm going to cover that later on because that song is much higher on my list, so I'm not going to jump in there. I've got another All song here, but All I've Got to Do by Lennon. He said once again he was trying to write a Smokey Robinson tune. It was written specifically for the American market. The Beatles talked about this later on, that the idea that in the UK a young man would call a girl on the phone was just not really a thing that was going to happen back then. Once again, John sounds great. He's really holding notes on this, man. Harmonies are fantastic. Really good song.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what's your number 3?
It Won't Be Long.
It Won't Be Long. Yeah. Well, that's my number 3 as well.
There's a play on be long and belong, and they're a nice little wordplay, kind of get an idea of what they're able to do. The nice call and response, obviously.
Works as an album opener as well, because it has that energy for sure.
It really does. That's what I thought. I put good opener, lots of energy. Still went off my and the guitar work is fantastic. Yeah, what you want to have for an album opener. Gives you a lot of encouragement when you pop this album on the first time, going, man, this is going to be a banger.
Oh, yeah, because this definitely is a front-loaded record, I believe, especially with the first, 4 or 5 tunes or whatnot. And one of the little parts in this track that I really like is when kind of Lennon crescendos up, you're coming home, and it's big time, man. So
and John had mentioned, way later on, that he thought this song was a turning point because it's a little more mature in the songwriting.
Yeah.
And he said trying to put behind us, not that we wanted to get rid of them, but those Liverpool club days and the teen girls and all that, and trying to like get to a wider audience. So he pointed this song out in particular as being important for that.
No, definitely, and I guess that leaves number 2 here. I'm going with the cover. I probably have this higher than most. This is one of my favorite Beatles covers, though.
Yeah, it is mine
that
too.
Ever came out. It's Please, Mr. Postman, and again, harping on Lennon's vocal performance here. Just a top-notch vocal.
And this is your number 2?
This is my number 2, man. What is your number 2?
No, go ahead. No, that's my number 2 as
well.
well.
Okay.
But
there
I'm just
you go.
now I'm equating what you have at 1. I'm like, okay.
So, I told you, man, there might be some hot takes by me here coming in, but I know most people might not have it this high due to it being a cover. There's just always been that sense of fun and just a cool factor to this track that I've quite enjoyed. I think that they do pretty solid instrumentally on it as well.
Trey, this song was done by the Marvelettes, and it's famous because it was the first Motown song to go to number 1. And I'm with you, and I think this is the take we're going to take a lot of heat for, having this song this high. Because people are going to come back, it's a cover. I know it's a cover. But man, I'll tell you what, man, Mr. Lennon pulls this thing off like you would not believe. I know I'm a broken record, but it's just fantastic.
I mean, the harmonies in the back are just gorgeous as well. So what is your one?
Well, yeah, you want me to cover the proper number 1 here? You know what my 1 is. It's what your 4 is, man. It's All My Lovin'. So even though all you Paul fans, I've slammed on Paul early on in this list, he gets the number 1 like he did on Please Please Me. All My Lovin', not released as a single in the UK or the US. It's released as a single in Canada and imported in the US, the way it was done back in those days sometimes. It went all the way to number 45 in the US off those imported singles. And it's also an important thing kind of in the canon of the Beatles because of the way it was written. Paul said he wrote it in the back of the tour bus. And then when he got to the gig they were going to, he found a piano and wrote and composed the music to it. He said it's the first time he'd ever written lyrics before the music.
Interesting.
So some growth there, and just another reason why it should be number 1.
Well, he kills it on the vocals. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, the vocals are great, and classic early Beatles sound. So go ahead. I mean, we already know, but tell us what the incorrect number 1 is that you have.
Number 1 coming in here, putting in the work. I got All I've Got to Do.
It's a great song, man.
And what was this? This was your number
4.
This was your number 4.
Yeah,
okay.
where it should be.
Yeah, All I've Got to Do, man. Lennon just sounds, for lack of a, but he's just got that sexiness and charisma coming through his voice. This is the second track, so yeah, I like it. You get It Won't Be Long, that energetic boom boom going in, and then we transition to this where that opening guitar strum is just so iconic to me, at least. And then he's just so soft in that vocal delivery. And then this is where maybe we differ, because here Paul in these early years, he sings about wanting to get the girls and imagining it, whereas Lennon, he already knows he's gonna get the girl. All right, he already knows that it's already set up for him, and he's almost just saying, hey, all I've got to do is this. I already got all this. I already know my good looks, my charisma, my charm, and I'm much the same way in my life. So I think that's why I got it so high, is because maybe people that can't relate.
Okay, here's the thing. Okay, I think these top 4 songs, all joking aside, are very close together.
Yeah.
I think your bias for John has you like elevating this. It's a really great song. But no.
I know most people won't have it even in the top 5.
All My Lovin's number 1. I mean, I had it at 4, and I get the beauty of it. So now, Trey, we're going to transition from that, your incorrectness at number 1, although it's still a great song, into our MVP of the album, and it's going to be a broken record from Please Please Me.
Yeah.
John Lennon carries this album. John Lennon carries early Beatles. I mean, there's zero doubt. Every single song. His voice is so pure, so energetic, so cocky, which works. You've got to have that, man. I think that was one of the things that was endearing for him. I don't think I even need to ask you.
No, it's got to be Lennon. And, I mean, it's almost just by default, because, I mean, George takes 3, Ringo takes 1. There's not a lot of lead McCartney, actually, which is a bit surprising, I think, when people look at the track listing. So Lennon carries it, especially on that A side, kills the covers, and also the originals as well. So I think that'll be a little bit of a broken record for these first handful
I do too, and I
albums.
think I don't know if you agree with this. I think you do, but in the Beatles canon, I think it's almost a direct halfway through. It flips from Lennon carrying the ball to McCartney carrying the ball, and then Harrison comes in at the end and really helps out too.
And John's Ringo, that foundation the whole time.
And John's still doing stuff, and Paul's still doing stuff in the early. But I agree with you there. And interesting that they gave George 3 tracks.
No,
Three of the 14 is pretty interesting to me, but.
And that's another interesting point too, because we have, of course, the iconic I Want to Hold Your Hand,
yes.
and She Loves You. You know, if they would have put that and maybe taken off like A Little Child or a Hold Me Tight.
Oh, take those two off and let's go.
Yeah.
Or Devil in Her Heart. Once you
yeah.
do that, he's still going to have two, and then you get a whole different deal there. But that's the way it is with these early Beatles albums, right? The singles are just... I mean, they're fantastic, and if you put them on the album, but they're not on the album, and so we're not really going to discuss them. And then that takes us to the last little part, the retrospective review, Trey, because I went back and looked, and I graded this thing a 7.5 the first time I heard it. I was in that Beatles like, wow, man, this is fantastic. I listen to it now, and I'm going to give it a very generous 6.0.
I'm going to be right in that area, like a 5.75 to 6 for me as well.
And we love, Beatles are my all-time favorite, but this is, but remember what I talked about in the beginning, right? We're trying to throw all this stuff together. That's really, really, I mean, these guys are being worked to death, literally. So
no, exactly. And, there's still some gems on here for sure, but I think we're kind of really diving in and looking back, especially since we didn't live through that time. I think the fans that are, newer to them and came decades after, a lot of them have this towards the bottom as well.
Different perspective that we have. And just a reminder, if you're watching this live, we're going to be in for a live Q&A on YouTube immediately following this, and then we're going over to Twitch to have a listening party.
That's right.
And maybe we'll hear this again and just go, you know what, man?
We were wrong.
Devil in Her Heart, maybe the best tune they ever did.
Of course, let us know your track listing down below. As always, Dad, appreciate it.
Yeah, and I want everybody to just, one last reminder when you're making them comments, remember that I had All My Lovin' at number 1.
Man, I'm ready. I got my shield out. I got
better
my
have it
shield
out,
out. Well, anyways, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and we will see you next time.